Chelsea. Thank you for the warm welcome to my first video. I'm over here now where there is a window and some bookshelves, and I'm going to be talking to you today about all of the books I want to read in the month of January. I have them right here. Okay, the first book on this list is one that I actually already finished. I just finished it yesterday, I think. And it is Rules of Civility by Amor, Towles. I hope I'm pronouncing the name right, that could be wrong. This is a historical fiction novel that takes place over the course of 1938 in New York City. It follows a young woman named Katie Content who over the course of the year manages to find herself amongst the upper classes of New York society. I'll be talking about this book and my thoughts on it more in my wrap-up, so that's going to be all for now on this one. The next book on my list is a reread of a book I read in high school, and that is The Hero and the Crown by McKinley. She has got to be one of my very favorite authors of all time. This year I think finished reading all of the books of hers, or at least all the novels. There might be some short stories I haven't read. All of the novels of hers that I had never read before. And so now I get to go back to the beginning and reread all the novels of hers that I maybe haven't read in a long time. This is one of her two Damar books that take place in the fictional kingdom of Damar and feature strong female protagonists. They were written in, I think, the 80s. The first one to be published was The Blue Sword. This was written, I think, as the prequel to that. I think that's the order they were written in. I will be rereading both of them in upcoming months because I only remember them very, very dimly. And I remember that I liked them. But since then, my tastes have changed a bit. I've come to really appreciate the sort of more mature style of McKinley's later writing, so I'm going to see what I think looking back on these again. Next book on my list is a young adult fantasy novel that's gotten a lot of positive attention on the internet, so I'm very excited for it. It is The Wrath and the Dawn by Renée Adieh. This is a young adult retelling of the story of Scheherazade from the Arabian Nights. I think that sounds awesome. I'm all for diversity in fantasy. It gets boring if you're reading book after book that takes place in something that looks a lot like medieval Europe. I've heard that the writing is beautiful in this, and I love retellings of anything fairy tale, mythology, folklore, so I'm looking forward to seeing what this is all about. The next book on my list is an adult fantasy novel. This also takes place in a non-European setting. This is Fudoki by Kij Johnson, and as far as I can tell, this is about a cat who becomes a woman in Japan of some historical setting that I don't think is revealed in the description, so I don't know exactly when this is supposed to take place in Japanese history. And the whole thing is, I think, being relayed to us by a character who is an aging princess or something. This is a book that the Goodreads recommendations based on what you've read thing has been shoving in my face like ever since I joined Goodreads. So it was on my radar, and the reason I'm actually picking it up now is because I'm a member of a Goodreads book club called Beautifully Written Fantasy and Science Fiction that is reading this right now, and so I need to finish it by the end of January, which is when the end date for reading this is for that group. It's a sleepy little group. If you're interested in the sorts of books they pick, they have a tendency to pick really smart authors and books that are maybe a little bit off the beaten path, and so I'll link the group below if you want to check it out. Anyways, I'm very excited to read this book. And the last book on my regular to-read list for January, I say regular because I've got something else here that I want to talk about, but in terms of plugging my way at a standard pace through fiction, the last book on my list here is Winter by Marissa Meyer. Everyone's reading this book right now. I know I have to read it too because The Lunar Chronicles, this series, is my favorite young adult guilty pleasure series right now. In case somehow you've avoided hearing people talk about it, these books are a series of young adult sci-fi fairy tale retellings that all weave together and form one big story. The first book was Cinder, the second two are Scarlet and Cress, which I don't have right here because I've loaned them out. And this is the final book. It is very long. Everyone is talking about how it's 800 pages on really, really thin paper. But I've read all the other books in this series really, really quickly, so I'm hoping this won't actually take me too long to finish. I tend to read young adult pretty quickly, and I have several young adult books on this TBR list, so I'm hoping I'll be able to get through them all in the month. If not, though, I'm not going to worry about it. I also have more books that I've got lined up. In case I finish, I'll go further. I'm just not going to stress. The last book I want to talk about is a nonfiction book that I just started reading. I got this for Christmas last year, and I've been reading so much fiction. I haven't been picking books like this up, and I've got some of them backlogged. So that is Dinosaurs Without Bones by Anthony J. Martin. This book is about the field of ichnology, which I hope I'm pronouncing right, but basically it's the study of trace fossils, which is everything other than skeletal fossils that we have left over from, say, dinosaurs. This is about dinosaurs. So this is about footprints and nesting sites and feces and stuff like that, and what we can learn about dinosaurs, especially their behavior, from trace fossils like that. I'll probably be reading this like maybe a chapter a week, a few pages at a time, whenever I feel like it. So it'll probably take me several months to get through it, while in the meantime I'm gallivanting my way through young adult fantasy and so forth. And when I eventually do finish it, I will talk about it, and I will start another punkin nonfiction book that's been sitting on my shelf for way too long. Okay, so that was my first TBR video. I get to edit it now and see what it looks like and see if I made a fool of myself. If you've read any of these books and want to let me know what you thought of them, you can let me know down below, or if there's something you're really excited to read in the month of January, you can let me know also. Thanks so much for watching. Bye for now.